6 vehicles, private tunnels, the same tunnels NFL owners use when they don't want to be seen. That's how Eala arrived in Miami. Not a tournament shuttle, not a courtesy car, a state-level security motorcade, personally authorized by the governor of Florida, for a 20-year-old tennis player seated 32nd. And if you're asking why a sitting governor redirected his office's attention toward a kid from Quezon City, the answer is already in the numbers. You just have to know where to look. After Indian Wells, Florida's economic analysts pulled the data. Ticket demand, hotel booking patterns, international flight surges from Southeast Asia, from Europe, from every corner of the world where the Panalo Army has planted its flag. What they found wasn't close. Eala is the single biggest commercial draw of the entire 2026 Miami Open. Not the top seeds, not the champions who've headlined this tournament for a decade. The 32nd seed, the kid from the Philippines. This isn't a feel-good story. This is mathematics. The Panalo Army descended on Miami tens of thousands strong. And when they land, they don't just fill seats. They fill hotels. They fill restaurants. They pour spending power into the South Florida economy at a scale no other player in this draw can touch. Governor DeSantis' office ran those numbers and made a decision. So when Alex's flight touched down on Florida soil, the motorcade was already waiting. Let that image settle for a second. A 20-year-old from Quezon City moving through the same private tunnels as NFL franchise owners. The WTA didn't script that. No marketing department planned it. The real world did. The political world, the economic world, the world that runs on data and dollars, looked at Eala and said, "This is historic." And then it sent 6 cars. But here's where it gets deeper. Because inside the Miami locker rooms right now, something else is happening. Sources close to multiple top-ranked players are reporting the same thing, and it isn't admiration. Multiple top names have been watching the motorcade footage, watching the Panalo Army fill the city, watching a tidal wave of coverage that isn't centered on them. The word coming back? Unsettled. Not annoyed, not dismissive.
Unsettled. And you want to know why that word hits so hard? This tournament has hosted Serena Williams, Venus Williams, Maria Sharapova, players who redefined what professional tennis could look like, who the sport could belong to, what it could mean to an entire generation. Not one of them received a state-sponsored government reception when they arrived. Not one. And it gets bigger than that. Governor DeSantis' office didn't just arrange a welcome. His office reportedly drafted a formal state proclamation in Eala's honor, an official government document, marking the first time in Miami Open history that a Southeast Asian athlete has received executive recognition at this level. 25 years of this tournament, dynasties, legends, career-defining matches, and this moment, this specific, formally recorded acknowledgement, belongs to a Filipina who 18 months ago was still grinding through the rankings match by match in a world that wasn't watching yet. The world is watching now. Here's what made it undeniable. Indian Wells, a 63 million peso prize, a forced retirement from the 4th-ranked player on the planet. When you do that, the financial world doesn't just notice, it repositions you. Investment analysts, sponsorship conversations, commercial partnerships, they all run on their own timelines until the result is too big to wait on. Alex isn't a rising star with upside anymore. She's a proven economic engine, and Florida recognized that before the tournament even started. The advanced ticket data needs no interpretation. Eala's scheduled matches are outselling every other player in the draw, including the top seeds. Not by a narrow margin. The moment her Miami entry was confirmed, hotel occupancy near Hard Rock Stadium spiked. Local Filipino restaurants, cultural businesses, community organizations across South Florida, all of them reporting a measurable surge tied directly to the Panalo Army's arrival. This is what a sovereign fan base looks like when it moves. This is what tens of thousands of fully invested supporters do to a city. And here's what stings hardest for the establishment. The WTA didn't build this. Not through a marketing campaign, not through strategic investment, not through a single deliberate decision. Alex and the Panalo Army built it themselves, match by match, year by year, in the face of a system that was never designed to make room for them.
The WTA is only now catching up to a reality that Eala Nation has understood for years. And then something happened in Beaverton, Oregon that changed the entire dimension of this story. Nike World Headquarters. Most players get the standard visit: a tour, a product preview, a photo. Professional, expected, forgettable. But when Alex walked through those doors, it stopped being standard almost immediately. She moved through the famous Nike tunnel, past the murals, past the portraits of LeBron James and Serena Williams, past decades of athletic history mounted on those walls. And then she stopped walking. Her own face was on the wall, a banner above it, 4 words: history in full bloom. That was not an accident. That was Nike, a brand that does not make casual statements, telling Alex Eala in the language of a space they've spent decades building exactly where they believe her career is going. And what they stitched into her kit for Miami carries that message even further. Nike has reportedly finalized a custom Sampaguita collection for Alex, the national flower of the Philippines, woven into the design language of her encore gear. Not a seasonal campaign, not a gimmick tied to a tournament. A cultural statement, a deliberate tribute to where she comes from and what she carries onto every court she walks onto. When she steps out for her Miami opener, she won't just be wearing a kit, she'll be wearing her country, stitched into every seam, pressed into every detail. But here's the part that's making certain players genuinely lose sleep. While everyone in this draw has been burning energy through early rounds, grinding through South Florida heat, recovering shot by shot, Alex had a first-round bye, extra rest, extra time, extra preparation, and she used every second of it with one opponent in mind. Coaches watching her practice sessions noticed the pattern immediately. The same drill, over and over, breaking down baseline rallies with her left-handed angle, sharpening the exact weapon that her projected third-round opponent has been quietly trying to find a counter to since their last meeting. That third-round opponent is Iga Świątek, world's number 2. Here's why Świątek's camp isn't sleeping easily. Indian Wells ended in the quarterfinals for her, a loss to Krejcikova that exposed something real: her consistency under pressure when opponents systematically destroy the rhythms her entire game is built around. She posted about it, called it a tough day, tried to turn the page. But turning the page is genuinely hard when the Miami draw puts a fully rested, governor-backed, Sampaguita-wearing Alex Eala on a direct collision course with you as early as round 3. Świątek's team knows the history. In 2025, Alex dismantled the then world number 2 in straight sets, 6-2, 7-5. That wasn't luck, that was a blueprint. Left-handed serve angles, baseline pace redirected into every spot that dismantles rhythm-based tennis. Composure when the second set tightened and everything was still alive. That loss changed how Świątek's coaching staff prepares for left-handed opponents. And yet, here we are again. Except the Alex Eala arriving in Miami in 2026 is not the same player from that match. She's faster, more experienced. She has 63 million pesos worth of Indian Wells confidence behind every shot. And she's coming in fresher than anyone else in this draw. Meanwhile, Świątek arrives carrying fatigue, a recent loss on record, and the psychological weight of knowing the biggest story in this entire tournament isn't her. It's the player and the Sampaguita kit, moving through NFL tunnels with the governor of Florida's formal endorsement. That weight is real. Anyone who has competed at the highest level of professional sport knows exactly what that weight feels like. The WTA scheduling conversations around a potential rematch are reportedly tense, because Alex's viewership numbers aren't just competing with Świątek's in certain demographics. In specific regions and audience segments, they're overtaking them. If those two meet in the third round, the broadcast figures could legitimately rival the final. The establishment built their entire 2026 promotional calendar around the names they've always relied on. Alex Eala is quietly dismantling that calendar from the 32nd seed position, and there is nothing anyone can do about it, because the bracket is the bracket, and the Pinalo Army doesn't need anyone's permission to show up. So here's where every thread of this story converges. March 2026, Hard Rock Stadium. Alex Eala arrives as the 32nd seed, the highest ranking of her career at an event of this scale. She carries the Indian Wells war chest, she wears the Sampaguita kit, she holds the governor's formal proclamation, she has the loudest, most devoted fan base of anyone in this draw, and she enters rested, while her most dangerous opponent is running on fumes. We opened with 6 cars in a private tunnel. Now you know what those 6 cars actually meant. Not a courtesy, not a gesture, a government looking at the data and making a decision. A sport scrambling to understand something it didn't build and can't control. A 20-year-old from Quezon City standing at the center of it all, unbothered, prepared, wearing her country on her back. The bracket is set. The Pinalo army is already there. The only question left is how far this story goes. And based on everything we just covered, the answer might shock the entire tennis world. Drop your Miami Open prediction below and subscribe because when that third round match happens, you are going to want to be here for the breakdown.